Seasons have changed a little bit. It's toward the end of November, and I'm working on myself continually, as we all are. And not everything has come into my reality as I've wanted it to. Excuse me, but I have realized many things that are important for myself to be able to bring in those things that I want. And I thought I would document it here for my benefit and for your benefit, for just to make sure I get these thoughts down. But I truly believe we're all channeling our higher being, right? I say right, but maybe you believe it, maybe you don't. But I do. I believe that we are a collective, in essence, a team, composed of whoever we are here in our body, and our soul, our higher being, and then, as I understand it, we have an oversoul, and that each of these parts of our collective have different purviews and overviews of, and they're all endowed with source energy and maybe even personality, although I think our personalities that we have here in this life are probably very specific, and that we can embody many different personalities and different lifetimes and different timelines and so on. So I don't have access to that kind of information yet. However, I do think that we are indeed our own collective. And I was also thinking, is that channel between us here, frontline action of this creative period that we call life, Earth life, we're channeling, there's a constant flow of energy, vibration, information from source and through the individuations of source called our oversoul and our higher self to where we are. And we can close it off to a degree. Maybe we can close it off mostly. But I don't know that we ever close it off. So I think we allow what we want to allow, but we don't ever completely close it off. So, sorry, I'm distracted. My daughter-in-law is trying to give me a call. I'll give her a call back in a minute, but I want to get this down. And I know there's a lot that occurred to me that I'm not going to be able to get down, but here it goes. The you that you think you are is an aspect of yourself, and just one, and it's an opportunity each and every day, as we call it, to choose to channel your highest and best good, or things that you consider your highest and best good, the things that you desire. But where did those desires come from, if not from, as a channel from your higher self, who has perspective, who has the plan, who understands you much better than you could ever understand yourself, and inspires you to rise above the fear, inspires you to rise above the ego and animal instinct that has been created as part of this reality for eons, I suppose. We're carrying along traits and DNA and family genetics and so on that influence us day in and day out. So that is flowing to us. But it's also flowing to everybody. So what's flowing to me is different than what's flowing to my wife or to my next door neighbor or to my mom and dad. And they are individually creating their own experience, their own perception of reality, their own timeline. And we still interact with each other. And sometimes we interact a lot, like my wife and I, several years back. Mostly my wife, it was her idea to buy this house on the edge of a small man-made lake on a little man-made island in a community. And it was a real stretch financially. But it wasn't my initial idea, but it was something I adopted because I could see that it meant so much to her. And it was a fun thought. So we pursued it. And we collectively achieved it. But what I'm saying is my part of that creation and her part of that creation are individuated. Her reality and my reality are not the same. We join in many ways and our realities overlap, but they are still separate. So while I can catch a glimpse of what I perceive as her reality from my perspective, it may or may not really be true, because after all, she is playing a role in my reality, of which I'm the director, I'm the camera, I'm the lens, she's a cast member. So to what extent each of our experiences is separate and individuated or overlapping is something that I don't remember at the moment. I like to say that remember now, because I think it's more recognizing that we don't have limitations except for those that we allow. And so I think we're all just in the process of remembering things that we, outside of this reality, otherwise have access to and know. But we don't right now. So my parents, whom I love dearly, have a reality in which they have political beliefs that are not the same as mine. Yet, those political beliefs, for them, seem to be their reality. So for me to impose or to attempt to impose my reality upon theirs is, first of all, it's probably futile. And actually it has been, by experience, it's been proven futile, because it doesn't change their mind. In fact, it creates greater conflict between us, because their perspective is their perspective and mine is mine, and our realities are different. So they're deriving some perceived benefit from their perspective and their reality, and well, I can't change that. Perhaps I can influence it, and there is certainly an aspect of we influence each other, but we have to also be open to that influence in some way or another. And whether it's a negative or positive influence. But otherwise, we stay in our frame, in our movie, in our, with our actors. And so the more we just relax and just allow people to live their movie, and maybe there's some instances where we feel that we need to say something, we need to speak up, we need to perhaps give something that will positively impact, like we do with our children, all through growing up, and largely because they're open, especially early on. And our influence can be both positive and negative, unfortunately, because we don't remember everything. I know I've had both impacts on my children, and to the extent that I've become to know better or feel that there's better, then I've tried to share those. And it's interesting. Some things they embrace, but a lot of things they don't. And what they're doing is largely good in their life, from my perspective. So I can see what they're doing, and I don't necessarily disagree with what they're doing. I might do things differently myself, but I share what I feel I should, and to the extent they're open, they accept it and choose what to do with it, and to the extent they're not, they don't. But we still we're living in our own realities, so the impact we have on each other is limited, and it should be. So there we go. I wanted to share those thoughts because I think that this reality we live in is really complex and yet so simple, right? And it's simple in that if we just pay attention to how we feel, and like I've asked my spirit team and my higher being today, just help me remain more aloof from the events that surround me, that normally impact me. Help me remain more detached. Yes, celebrate with the things that are good, but specifically with the things that I don't desire, that I don't prefer. Let me just look at them. I'll react in whatever way is most appropriate in form of action, right? Take the action that is most important, appropriate. So it doesn't mean I don't take action, but largely observe. Do what I need to do, because things have been set in motion. But just do more observing, less reacting, and feeling, and noticing when my ego is triggered into the fear, into the worry, into the imaginings of scenarios that are not desirable. And that's what egos do, right? So that was my ask today, and that's what I'm working on. That, and pouring more and more attention into what I do want. And I think that's pretty well known. So, where we put our attention, where we place our attention, is where we go, and largely what we manifest. Everything else I have shared today is really just enhancements, possibly, or refinements of perspective of these things. So there we go. Thanks for listening.